Hey, what's going on, fellow homebrewers? We are back. It's Dr. Homebrew. We're back in the studio here in the virtual Zoom built studio, and we have some homebrew to discuss, and then we have a cool conversation to have with the homebrewer. And it's not just about homebrewing, and that's all I'm really going to say. And with me, of course, are Brian and Brian, the Council of Brians, part of the Council of Brians, anyway. What's going on, fellas?
Hello.
Hi, Jason.
Hi. Hello. I'm about to open a can of, you guessed it, celebration ale.
I knew it.
Of course. I still have I don't know, 30. I feel like it's sometimes not saying I shouldn't say that because someone's gonna rob me. I genuinely, it's like one of those don't talk about your wealth because then you're gonna get robbed.
You're putting on public Facebook, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks and here's my address.
Yeah, right, exactly. Going out to a club with real diamonds on. That's not what, I'm posting online with real celebration ale in a sort of a dirty glass, honestly.
You're probably more worried that it's gonna the freshness is gonna fade before you get to that 30th can.
Never. No, I'm never worried about it.
It's just
it is one of the beers, and don't worry, I'm not gonna go on forever about it. But it's one of the beers where I appreciate the journey that it goes on.
I was baiting you there. Yeah,
I know you were. You're a master at that.
And JP, I haven't bought a 12-pack of beer in probably 3 years until last December when I bought, I think, 2 12-packs of Celebration and drank them all by right after New Year's.
There you go.
So yeah, it's real good stuff. Now, I would suggest that you might want to consider hand digging a hole about 10 feet deep in your backyard, putting your Celebration at the bottom of that hole, then filling in the hole so you get the benefit of that lower temperature in the ground, but you also protect it from thieves.
See, there you go. I just drink it and pee it into the ground.
I let
the local sewer system hold my urine. I don't know, whatever. What's going on, everybody? Before we get to Ryan, I do want to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com/homebrew-club-program right now. Sign up for the Homebrew Club program. It's a really cool program. They give you, free product, exclusive discounts, monthly educational seminars, and free stuff as well. So if you want to give back and support, 5 Star, which is one of the pinnacles of the whole homebrewing movement, I really believe that, when 5 Star came on the scene, they really revolutionized how you can clean and sanitize at home. With the whole iodine-based stuff beforehand, it was a pain in the butt. Everybody knows it was staining tubing, and you didn't really know how long, or if you used too much of it. That was a lot of problems. When I was working the showroom at More Beer, people would come in, my homebrew kind of tastes weird, and it's like, oh, you use iodine, don't you? Yeah, okay, I can taste it. I can taste it. Can't really do that with 5 Star. So anyway, they're great supporters of not only homebrewing, of course, but of this show. So please check them out. And if you're interested at all in any of the information that they have to give out, or like I said, free stuff before it hits the market, or big discounts, sign up for their Homebrew Club program off of their website. It'll help you, and it'll show that you are interested in their products. And you can also send them an email. Thank them. Hey, thanks for supporting the show, guys. Appreciate it. That kind of fun stuff.
You know what I saw the other day that was really cool?
What's that?
Liquid PBW. I saw that
PBW. What the?
I saw that awesome. I saw it in New Brewer for craft beer professionals. So I went and looked online for it. I wonder if they're selling this to homebrewers. And sure enough, More Beer, among others, has $29.99 here just on Google, 32 ounces of liquid Star San for $29.99.
Liquid PBW.
Yeah.
Liquid PBW. Apparently it mixes better, which is always the downside of PBW is that powder doesn't always get into solution. So man, that liquid PBW sounds like it'd be pretty awesome.
See, look at that, innovating already.
I know.
Even now, who would have thought there was room left for innovation? But 5 Star got you covered. That's neat, man. I'm going to try that. I do like the powdered stuff too, because like I said before, I use it to clean other stuff in my house. It's a great cleaner for my sink because it gets that scrub, and whatever. And sometimes I like that the granules don't necessarily all disintegrate because you can, because I leave my shit, man. I leave stuff in it. my fermenter usually in the side port usually has some dried yeast or whatever in it, and it's just great to really grime in there. You can make a paste out of it and really get it in there. So everything has its uses, man. What are you gonna do, right? Yeah. All right, Ryan, what's up, dude?
Hey,
how's it going, man?
Good, it's good to be here.
Doing all right. We're doing all right, man. We're surviving. Trying to adjust
Wow.
all my lights in my studio, and I don't know if
Appreciate
I'm
you
doing a
guys
good
having
job.
me on.
Yeah. Thanks for sending beer. More importantly, who cares about
for
us?
sure.
Who cares about us? You know what I mean? So you have a cool story, man. We're going to talk about it for sure. Your brewery
Right on.
or your company is Old Standby Brewing, and I don't know. Let's not talk about it yet. We'll save it for the next segment because I want to hear more about what you're doing.
Cool.
You're basically like one of what they call gypsy brewers, but you have a good read. You brew for causes, and I think that's really cool. It's
Right.
something pretty unique in the space. So we'll
Sure.
save that. But what's the beer that you sent us this time, man?
It's a big Imperial coffee stout.
Okay, big Imperial coffee stout. Now
Yeah.
have you done something like this before?
Yeah, I've been doing it, kind of tweaking the recipe for the last couple years.
Okay.
Trying to get it right, trying to figure out how to do it, how to leave a little residual sweetness in there after it's done fermenting, so that when you bitter it with that coffee, it kind of can still balance out.
It's a hard one. Yeah, this would be
yeah.
a hard recipe to perfect. A lot of coffee. Got to get through a lot of coffee.
That's a great label that JP just held up to the screen for anyone that is listening to the podcast.
So, well, let's see. I want to talk about how you got. I just want to jump to all the things, but we got to go through the beer first.
Okay.
So
yeah, no
let's talk about who you brewed this with first.
This one was just on my own here. I have a
Okay.
I have a 20-barrel electric system here and a couple 14-barrel.
Nice.
I mean, a 20-gallon system.
That was gonna
here.
say, dude, what the hell's going on?
reverse.
Yeah.
20-gallon system, couple 14-gallon fermenters, and
Okay.
a little glycol chiller, and
You're
Yeah,
set,
so I
dude. You're
just-
kitted
yeah.
out. Okay.
I brew about 20-25 times a year here on this system,
Cool.
Wow.
and yeah,
That's a lot.
and
Yeah, that's a ton, man. That's a lot. All right. Well, let's
Yeah.
get to the beer.
So-
Cooper,
for sure.
That's good. Yeah.
you got beer on your shirt. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Yeah. We're getting ready for the Livermore Valley Craft Beer Fest coming up in a few months.
Right on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And they do have beer crawl in downtown Livermore in February. So I'm thinking about those guys. We have some fun. That's coming up Thursday. Anyway, anyone want to join me?
I might.
Yeah. So in the aroma, I'm getting a really pleasant dark roast coffee up front, and medium dark roast malt notes kind of alongside that. No hops, a very clean ale fermentation is apparent. A low sweet alcohol is poking through. No DMS or diacetyl. Really pleasant, but quite coffee forward, I would say. I gave it 8 out of 12 on aroma. The beer is just jet black with a brownish dark tan head that sticks around for eons. It's really creamy and textured. Clarity of the beer is next to impossible to discern, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, say it's clear, and give full 3 points for appearance. Flavor wise, that rich coffee hits you on the first sip. But it's also smoothly sweet. There's some sweet alcohol in there, some vanilla-like notes, rich Imperial stout. Those kind of malts are playing a stronger role here than in the aroma, but the coffee still wins hard. There's a lot of like cocoa-like character to it, like a soft kind of creamy cocoa, coffee and cream kind of flavors. Everything combines kind of nicely, but that sweet, it's just like sweet coffee. It's like, and the coffee is really fresh, which is impressive. Again, it covers up some of the other elements of this. The beer is obviously malt balanced. Yeah, we're talking about bitterness a little bit. The beer has some of these Imperial stouts with coffee, you get really sharp and biting. This one has a kind of a medium low to medium kind of bitterness. It seems like most of that's probably from the malts and a little bit from the coffee. So it finishes semi-sweet towards sweet, not cloying or anything, but very forward, almost like a dessert.
Sure.
I landed at a 14 out of 20 on the flavor. Mouthfeel wise, medium full bodied. It's really smooth. There is some warmth there. I would say it's medium, but it's not biting or hot. Medium low, bordering on medium CO2. It's pushing up a good head, but it's not like really carbonic feeling. But just big overall. It's a bit fuller seeming than even the body would suggest, with everything going on here. That the creaminess of that. There's no astringency here. I just know there's a lot of sugars and or dextrins left in the solution here that you just feel them in your mouth. And
Sure.
it didn't, I don't know. We'll find out how far down it fermented out at the end. But I imagine it had a pretty high finishing gravity. 4 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Overall, this is a good example of how to get very fresh coffee into a beer. So I would like to talk to you once we get to that point about how you did your coffee extraction, and how you avoided that dreaded green pepper gnarliness that you can get sometimes in a coffee beer. But it's just so much. It covers up a fair amount of the otherwise really nice style components here. And the sweetness is pushing up a bit high as well. I landed at a 7 out of 10 for overall impression, totaling to a 36, which is just, toward the top end of very good for that. I think, to improve the beer, if you find a way to back off the sweetness, back off the coffee a little bit, but keep that fresh coffee character with it, but just let the stout characters play through a little bit better. I don't know how long this is aged. It doesn't seem like it's a long aged beer, but sometimes this happens over time as well if you save some bottles. But yeah, really wonderfully drinkable beer. Just the only deductions are really for kind of the balance to me. But yeah,
For sure.
I'm interested to hear what Brian has to say about it as well, and JP even.
Totally.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
things to say, especially about what you just said, but that's okay. We'll let Shar go first, and then I'll flail Cooper.
So Ryan, thank you for sending this beer in. I have to ask my usual question, of course. Are you in a homebrew club?
I'm not in a homebrew club. No, no. In
Is it
Salem
your
here, there isn't much going on here in Salem. I've met up with some other dudes here around town, and some of the people in Portland, and a little bit down in Eugene, but never joined up in a club myself.
Yeah, meeting up with a few dudes around town kind of sounds sketchy. So you might want to be wary of that.
It depends on what you're into, man.
Cool. That's sometimes it's best to be by yourself when you're brewing. I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they
And
have
you
to
have-
share all those big fermenters.
Exactly. And
Doesn't
you
wanna
have,
do
I
that.
know.
Yeah, right.
How do you have like a ton of friends that come over and drink your beer? That's a lot of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little October canner, so I can some beer up and just pass it out.
Wow.
And yeah, for sure. And enter. I use some of it to enter in some competitions, and
Nice.
so yeah, so we get through it.
Well, if you're brewing at bulk for a home brewer, which is probably good
Right.
practice for brewing in bulk as a craft brewer, because that's
Sure.
what you'll be doing all day, every day.
Probably.
Yeah,
That
totally.
you're not trying to sell beer. Anyway,
Exactly.
enough of that. I really like this beer. I thought it was really nice. Aroma, high level of roasted malt. I got less coffee aroma than Brian did, but I also judged this probably colder than I should have.
I judged it really warm last night, and now I'm judging it colder, and I think it plays a little better on the colder
Yeah.
side. I had it sitting out for quite a while last night, and I maybe should have avoided that or cooled it back down. I don't know.
Sometimes that's just the way it goes, and especially when you got a small child, you have every intention of judging, and then you have to come back 2 hours later and do it. So we've all been there. I got a low plum / stone fruit aroma, not huge fruit, but a little fruit. No obvious hop aroma, no off flavors or diacetyl. Gave it 9 out of 12 for aroma. Appearance, it's opaque even in front of a light. Usually stouts, they're pretty opaque, but you can get something at the edge. You'll really catch some color right there. And that was almost impossible to do. I got a little ruby looking stuff in like black. It's like that Spinal Tap album, the Black Album. It's kind of like that. It's the head is low and persistent. 3 out of 3 for appearance. A flavor. Initially, the flavor is kind of roasty, malty, with less roast and more of the coffee, which is kind of the opposite of the aroma, which is interesting. It doesn't mean anything one way or another. It's not going to knock any points off or add any points. It's just always kind of interesting how some beers can sort of have an aroma that says you're going to be drinking A, and you end up drinking something related to that, but maybe flipped on its head. 1 over A.
Sure.
But that was really interesting. I got there's some more of that sort of currant/plum stone fruit type aroma or a flavor. Low ethanol sweetness is present, not the harsh fusel. And there is a difference in beers like this. If you're drinking a high alcohol beer and it comes across harsh or effusively, that's not what it's supposed to be. That's bad fermentation. What you really want is kind of a sweetness you get from the ethanol, and that's here. And it's present and it's noticeable, but it fits into everything else in the flavor. Mid palate, hot bitterness comes up to balance the malt. The finish, it's long, malty, very well attenuated. I'll be curious what your OG and final gravity were on this, because it doesn't come across thick and cloying and big. It comes across hugely flavorful, but not like a thing you're going to chew for lunch and be done.
Sure.
So let's see. So 14 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Body is high. Carbonation's medium. Definite warming. Not astringent. Not creamy, but not perky either. It's a Russian Imperial Stout, or it's an Imperial Stout. It's, you can have almost no carbonation in these, and I appreciate kind of the medium level of carbonation. I think that does a lot for the perceived attenuation. It kind of lifts any heaviness off the tongue. So maybe this is like badly attenuated, but it's carbonated well enough that it masks that. I don't know, but well done. Overall impression, I gave it an 8 for a total of 39. I really like this beer. I thought the coffee was used very skillfully without overwhelming the flavor or the aroma. But kind of as to what Cooper and I just had discussed, maybe if this warmed up another half an hour, maybe this is one you want to drink right away. I don't know. Everything is balanced to make this a harmonious whole. If I changed anything, I'd add more aroma hops, because technically, according to the guidelines, you're supposed to have some hop aroma. I don't think a lot of Imperial Stouts have much, if any, hop aroma. You might think about that or play with it. If this is a beer you brew often or some frequency, you might just play with it, add some more, maybe add some fruitier rather than these came across a little more earthy, I think. But
like a later edition.
Just a very at the end for aroma, maybe a little bit of flavor. But again, I think this is a good beer without that. That just might for some judges that might put it a little bit higher up, because they'll look, this guidelines say hop aroma has to be low. I'm not getting any, so I'm going to knock it down some. If you're brewing for competition, that might give you a point or two. So thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. This is really nice.
Yeah, totally.
And between judging this earlier and the show, I think I plan to finish drinking this bottle. It's too good to pour down.
Right on. Appreciate the feedback.
Cooper, what'd you give it?
I landed at a 36, but I could come up after
36.
listening to some of Brian's comments there.
Mhm.
I think
We're within 3, but I think that your comments aren't invalid, Brian. I think we just drank this beer at different stages of its thermal evolution.
Right.
It's probably better colder, like most beers.
Yeah, drinking it tonight, I'm feeling it plays a little better, and it's that sweetness isn't lingering on my tongue as much, and it's
Interesting.
It's nice.
So I screwed up, and I left this beer out until about 8 minutes before we went live. So I put it in the freezer. So it's like basically room temperature. I think it's great. I mean, I would give it a 42. Personally, I like coffee stouts. I love coffee, and I love the way people use them or use that as an ingredient. It's one of the few ingredients I think that I can that just comes to mind that there's basically one way to get it across. Every other way you get coffee across has that green pepper or watery, or it tastes like grounds. This tastes like coffee. There's a little bit of earthiness to the coffee where it's like, it's like coffee just brewing, I guess. I don't know. I drink a lot of coffee. But and it's a coffee with stout in it. It's not a beer with coffee in it. And I have a feeling that's what you're going for. So like maybe stylistically, it's probably not really, like the guys were saying, the more the beer should probably shine through a little bit. But man, is it ever delicious. The only thing that I would comment on is maybe get a little more body, or a little more malt flavor. I think like Shar maybe was saying. But even that is with coffee. I think the reason coffee works with the beer like this is because it blends so well. It's hard to find that line. And I think if a coffee stout is done well, it should just ease right into the next note. You shouldn't have that line. So I think that the fact that it's hard to find is sort of okay. I'm okay with it, right? The coffee might be a little on the bitter side, just a little bit for me, but that's why it's a 42 and not a 50. This is a great coffee stout. I would buy this. I would definitely drink more of this. Yeah, well done. The chocolatey notes are there, but it finishes dry. I don't get a whole lot of extra sweetness on it. The coffee flavor is right on. It packs a punch. It smacks you in the mouth, but not overpowering, because at the end it still finishes with that malt, sweetness a little bit, a little acidity there, a little acrid. Yeah, fantastic. I can't wait to get into the beer, man.
Yeah, it seems to me like it might be, like you said, he worked around the coffee and added the ingredients and the techniques to get it so that the coffee would play right and have everything else kind of supporting it and blending harmoniously with it, because it is a really enjoyable beer, and it does, the balance for just an enjoyable drink is very good. I'm maybe being a little too hard at it and looking for, getting a, Imperial Stout, a balanced Imperial Stout, and then getting coffee in tandem with that.
That's what you're supposed to do, though. That's your job.
Okay.
That's
why you hired me, sir.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, that's right. But that's what you're supposed to do. We're supposed to be judging these according to the style, where I'm more of a rebel, so I don't do that.
But wow, maybe make it into a new style. If you're doing something really special with it, you could enter it as a specialty. But then they might just say, well, why didn't you just enter it as a spice or vegetable to 38, dummy? But if you turn it into something magical, like JP saying, a coffee drink with stout flavors or something, instead of being the other way around, that might be something cool to play with.
I like it. Like I said, there's a little bit of acridity left over that I'm not a huge fan of, but I would buy it again for sure. This would be on rotation. I really like it. Let's start. You want to share the recipe with us, and then we can talk about how you did the coffee and all that kind of fun stuff.
For sure. Yeah. So on this one, I did it for a 11 gallon finished batch. So there's about 50 pounds of malt in there, which pretty much maxes out my 20 gallon mash tun. So you can imagine efficiency is just like in the toilet for sure.
Right.
So this is the first time.
Do you even bother?
The first time
Go ahead, Char.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to JP.
I am the host. I told you to go ahead. You listen to me, goddammit. You go
I
ahead.
will listen to you.
Go ahead, Brian.
In 15 years of listening to the Brewing Network and being on the Brewing Network, I have never once, hundreds of hours of shows, thousands of hours of shows, heard a homebrewer put 50 pounds of grain into anything.
All right, I win.
Into their home system.
You win homebrewing this month.
That's
a
right.
whole sack of grain into this one batch.
Yeah.
And it's only double the size or so of most people's batches. That's crazy.
For sure. Yeah. So it's like 37 pounds of base malt, and then all the specialty malt. I guess there's 2 pounds of brown sugar that I add in the boil. So I guess those 2 pounds weren't in the mash tun. So actually only 48 pounds, you know, so I might've just lost the,
Oh, I think
Yeah.
you're still way in the
Still
lead.
running,
That's not
man,
not
yeah.
a photo finish.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's got some Crystal 60 in there, some flaked oats, roasted barley, some Crystal 140.
There you go.
Two
Okay.
different chocolate malts and some black patent.
You
And
got
then,
percentages or weights on that for us?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
about 75% is the base malt.
Okay.
And then 4% each for the Crystal 60 and the flaked oats and the roasted barley. And then 2% each on I put some Karistan, the 3037 in there, the UK. So there's 2% of that, 2% chocolate, dark chocolate, 2% Crystal 140 and 2% pale chocolate. And then 1.5% of black patent. And then that leftover 4% is the 2 pounds of brown sugar that goes into the boil. So yeah,
Wow.
pretty hefty. It's the biggest beer that I brew, and I usually only brew it once a year, just because it's 50 pounds of malt. You know?
Oh, yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
How much hops? Let's go hops for a second, just to laugh at
so-
the disparity there.
Yeah, it's a 90-minute boil. So I do a 90-minute edition of Warrior. So it's like a 60 BU when it's calculated out. It's only 2.5 ounces of Warrior, but you know, it's 18. You know, at 18 alphas, it's 18% alphas. So
Yeah.
and they're in there for the full 90. So yeah,
Okay.
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, it maxes out the system for sure. And I have to stir the crap out of it multiple times during recirc, and I have to underlet a couple times just because the false bottom gets pretty, it gets pretty
Sure.
caked down at the bottom, so
Yeah.
I have to push some hot water. So luckily there's a little bit of room on the top so I can force some hot water in.
Oh, so
underneath
you
and-
you plug it
and,
in, you plug in like your hot liquor tank or whatever, and you pump water,
yeah,
clean
just to
water
kind of
up to push the grain bed up a little bit. Okay.
yeah, just
That's
to
a good idea.
push that false bottom, kind of clear out the false bottom a little bit and get it flowing again. Because once you get towards the end, the recirc is pretty slow, as opposed to a regular size beer. So
Sure.
You're a
so I
very
gotta do
brave
that a
man.
couple times and that's why this is only a once a year beer. But
Yeah.
my
Dude.
one of my good pals is a pro brewer down in Orange County, and he's been working with me on this recipe. His name's Jared, and he's been the brewer at Tustin Brewing down in Orange County, and now he's brewing over at Bearded Tang in Stanton. And so he's been working with me on this. He's won quite a bit of medals with at World Beer Cup and GABF with this style of beer, and so he's been helping me out a little bit, trying to get it close to to what he's doing.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's getting there.
Good to
This
have
is like
friends
my-
like that.
I think-
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. This is like my third or fourth year I've been brewing it, but yeah, like I said, only once a year. So yeah.
So what about the
yeah.
coffee? Are you adding that in secondary?
For sure.
What kind of coffee and how are you getting it?
Yeah, the coffee
Prepared.
goes in the keg actually at cold temps. So once the beer is completely done, it's crashed and it's over, and I keg it. Then I do a coarse ground on the beans and sanitize a couple bags and just soak it right in the keg for 24 to 36 hours. It's pretty quick, and so I can do a smaller dose, and then I pull it out and sample the beer and then decide whether or not that amount of bitterness is kind of balancing out all that malt sweetness or not. And then, so this time I actually added a second round, which is why the aroma on there is just kind of off the charts with coffee.
It's killer, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you accounting for some of that bitterness from the coffee in your hop addition? So you kind
For
of
sure.
lighten the load a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah, because I mean, on paper, the beer is from that hop edition, that one Warrior edition, it is about a 60 BU, but for how sweet that this beer finishes, Yeah, I don't really know how to calculate the bitterness that's going to come from that coffee other than just tasting it, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't. There's
so-
there's no way. That's interesting
For
because
sure.
I've had
Yeah.
beers that, you know, do that where you just like soak the beans and there's not, or the grounds, and there's not as pronounced or rounded of a coffee flavor. So I gotta imagine with your malt bill, I gotta imagine some of that malt bill is sort of adding back to that coffee, or that's that interplay that we were talking about a little bit ago.
for sure.
Which is, I mean, which is great, and that's what you want to do. You want to build your beer around your main ingredient like that. I think for something like this,
Definitely.
you
Yeah.
know.
So yeah, the OG is
Wow.
like at 1105, about 1107, right in there. It's a pretty,
Jesus
it's a pretty
Christ.
big starting gravity.
The fucking hydrometer just shot
Yeah.
up. It's like where you take a pencil and you throw it up in the ceiling to
Ah.
stick. It's like that. It just there it is.
Yeah.
That's up there.
Yep.
Wow, that's wild, man. Yeah, that's a great. It's great. What kind of coffee? What are you doing for that? I mean, you're in
Oh, man.
in the
Yeah.
land of coffee up there, so in
Seriously,
Oregon.
I've tried so many different brands and so many different like local roasters, and yeah, like it's kind of shameful actually, but I keep going back. Well, I've gone back a couple times with different coffee editions to an Italian roast from
Mhm.
a major brand that I
There we go.
don't really want to say, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yep. All right.
I really like the flavor of this Italian roast and
Yeah.
to drink, you know, just to drink as coffee. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for a coffee that I really like and really enjoy. And
I
you
will
know.
say that, and I'm not going to assume, and you don't have to say,
sure.
but to this day, and maybe it's because I first started, it was like the first one I ever had, but the first coffee stout I really ever had was from Red Hook. It was like the double, what the fuck, with like double black or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that.
I remember
was-
that.
Yeah, and that was made with double strength Starbucks Italian roast coffee. And I tell everybody every time I can, like that to me is that's the best way to get that flavor in. And I think that's also
Right.
the coffee. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, because I'm super smart, right? My brain's too big. What people don't understand about using coffee, it's not just any coffee. You can't do it. It's an agricultural ingredient, just like anything else that we use. And Guatemalan coffee is going to taste different than a Sumatran coffee, which is going to taste different than a Colombian coffee, especially in a different medium, not just brewed with hot water. But with that, you know what I mean, with actual beer ingredients and stuff like that. So I think you're doing great. I think that sweeter coffee does come through. I think that's yeah. I mean, it's a good addition. I like this beer a lot. I can't say enough about it. What about your yeast? Do that.
Yeah, for this one I used just flagship, so just Cal Ale yeast. I make a huge starter for this one, you know, the night before, just because there's so much residual in there. It needs, and you know, some of it does blow out of the fermenter even just because it gets rolling so much. So I keep a pretty good sized bucket underneath the fermenter just to make sure it can blow off into there.
Wow.
You know, not like the old days when I was, you know, fermenting in the closet and you know, beer would explode all over your clothes, and yeah, so
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
And what was your fermentation temperature?
I started pretty low, about 64,
Mhm.
and then I let it kind of ramp up to about 68 at the finish.
Okay.
That sounds like a pretty good idea to stop. I mean, those fusel alcohols, if you get them, are going to come from a rapid temperature excursion at the beginning. And if you kind of hold it down to 64, the yeast can kind of get a good start without going crazy and making
Totally.
a bunch of off flavors.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, where did the
Yeah.
final gravity land? You started at 1105,
Yeah, it
get down to
ends at
10,
about
10:30
20,
ish.
10,
10:20s?
25, 26.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, so
That's
that's,
a
why
good-
the coffee, the coffee bitterness you have to add coffee to this beer, or else it's just
Yeah.
like it's a pastry stout almost without the coffee, you know, which is not anything that I really want to drink, but
Mm-mm.
you know,
No,
you
this
have
is
to bitter
you're
it
right.
with that
This is
coffee.
about as close as I want to get to that level of sweetness and that level of integration with those kind of like you know, I think your caramel flavored, your caramel additions are doing you a service, because like Cooper was saying, it is sort of like coffee with cream or whatever. You know, we've had a few East Coast breweries do that kind of thing a few times on the session years back, and
Right.
it's great. It's good. It's very drinkable, and it's a cool way to make a beer. But
Totally.
yeah, I think yeah, I think those caramel additions are helping with that perceived sweetness, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's
Before
cool.
the I still have a couple gallons in the smaller keg that I haven't added anything to yet. Just
smart.
I might try a different coffee, brand or type on that this time. I'm just kind of letting it kind of cold condition for a little longer.
Mhm.
When you guys got those bottles, it was still a pretty fresh beer. I think I brewed it in like mid-December. And
Oh, geez. Okay.
yeah, but then I keep it in the fermenter for a little while to just kind of cold condition and crash it down. And then I keg it and it conditions a little more in the keg. But I think it's a beer that can just hang around for months and months, in the keg, because it's got all
Yeah.
that,
Do you
Yeah.
keep like a library of this? Do you keep like 6 bottles around, and then maybe every once in a while you go back and you drink through 4 or 5 of them? I would love to see how this ages out over a year or 2 or 3.
For sure. Yeah. I try to, but
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
fair.
you know how
Man.
that goes.
Yeah, I do.
So,
yeah.
It's like my celebration ales. I can't hang on to them as long as you do, man.
Yeah,
I just drink those things, man.
You can't do that, man, because then you can't be sitting here on February 15th having one,
Seriously. Yeah.
I've got one in the garage. I'll go get one right now.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Anything else on either side? Ryan, do you have any questions for these guys, or vice versa?
I don't think so. You guys hit all the points. That was
Cool.
Yeah.
I
appreciate all the
yeah.
info.
I think Ryan's the only home brewer in Oregon to make one hop edition in a beer.
And use 50 pounds of malt too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Anything
Seriously.
particular water wise that you did to balance out all the dark malts in this, or
Not really. We have really soft water here in the Willamette Valley. It's coming right out right out of the Cascades, and I charcoal filter it. And for this beer, I don't really add anything. I do add a little yeast nutrient, but yeah, that's about it. Yep.
Cool.
nice
Nothing really.
good water to start with. That's very
Yeah.
helpful. It's amazing
Yeah,
that
for
you
sure.
made such a clean and not hot beer at the 10-11% almost that
sure.
this is. So good job there for sure.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right. Well, if that's it, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll learn more about Ryan's story and what he's doing over there at Old Standby. So hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. I almost said Dr. Session. We'll be right back. All right. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We are here with Ryan from Old Standby Brewing. Now, Ryan, tell me about Old Standby. What's your deal over there, out there?
Yeah, man. I'm up here in Salem, Oregon. Originally from Long Beach. My brother and I started brewing back in the mid '90s.
Mhm.
We had a little apartment in the east side of Long Beach,
There you go.
down in California, and he shows up one day after work with the homebrew kit from Steinbart's, our local homebrew shop down there in Long Beach.
Okay.
And they've been that shop's been around forever. And so, man, we got to it. We got in the kitchen and whipped up some batches of beer, and they were probably pretty terrible, but we drank them anyway. And friends came over, and
they usually are, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, we're drinking Sierra Pale and Sam Adams at that time, and there's a little beer bar around the corner. We were drinking Widmer wheat, Widmer Hefts, and it was time to start, see if we could do that.
It was the 90s. Yeah. I mean, that's like that encompasses perfectly drinking in the 90s. Just like,
Totally.
Got Widmer Hef. You got Sam Adams.
Exactly.
You're living the high life, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, we were in a pretty rough neighborhood. So we had some dudes that would,
Well, yeah, you said Long
drop by
Beach.
occasionally. Yeah.
All right. I've been to the Walmart, to the Walgreens in Long Beach once, and that was I still wake up screaming.
Yeah, there's some rough neighborhoods for sure.
Yeah.
There's some amazing parts, but
Absolutely.
we weren't we couldn't afford the good part. So
No.
we were in a pretty rough neighborhood. So so we're brewing in the kitchen, and we did that for a little while, and then my brother got pretty heavily into it. He was brewing way more. And I was just kind of assisting him for the first, 7 or 8 years. And then he advanced up to, the igloo coolers, and in the backyard, he moved over to a house and got, had space in the backyard, and kept going with it. And, and then he stepped up to the tippy dump system there in like the mid, early, I think it's probably early 2000s. Yeah.
Sure.
That more beer system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Went out there to Riverside. I think they have a location out in Riverside.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so he bought one of those, and man, then it was seriously on. We had a lot of beer to go through, and so a lot of friends would show up, and it was just a good time, brewing in the backyard, and having a great time with it. So
Yeah.
and then like mid 2000s, I moved up here to Oregon. I have 3 daughters, and so I was teaching and didn't have too much time to brew right away, and I kind of got back into it once I moved up here, and then I was just brewing on my own and doing my own thing here in the garage. Started off real simple again with a single kettle and little propane burner, and
Yeah.
just brewing, simple beers and having a good time doing it with friends and family around. And I just kind of kept going with it and entering competitions and winning some awards, which is always cool, and getting feedback and
Right.
meeting a lot of people around through brewing. There's always a lot of cool people around when there's beer around, right?
Oh, sure.
So,
Yeah. There's always a lot of people around. It takes you running out of beer, I think, to figure out if they're cool or not,
Yeah, for sure. The neighbor,
Yeah.
you roll the garage door open and the neighbors just like appear,
Yeah, it's almost like
yeah.
like if you have a problem starting your lawnmower, suddenly all the dads in the neighborhood go, "Well, you need
Totally.
have you checked the I got a thing, yeah."
For sure. Except in this case, they all show up with an empty glass and they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what's going on over here?" Yeah. So I just kept going with it, and in 2017, I stepped up to this all electric system. It was kind of the first version of the spike system.
Okay, yeah.
So 3 20-gallon
Okay.
kettles with the Herms coil and the hot liquor tank, and I bought a couple of SS fermenters. I could finally afford some of this stuff, and
There you
so
go.
saved up and paid some of it off over time.
Yeah, right.
So I just kept going with it, and then just the word kind of got out around town through my social media and stuff that that I had beer, and people were wanting it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I can't really sell it to you, so just come over and I'll fill a growler for you or something like that. That was before I had the October canning machine and all that, and so I just kept going with it, and then I decided, all right, maybe it's kind of cool to start donating some of this money to charity.
Oh, cool.
And so I created this brand name, Old Standby. It's like a trusted and reliable, is the kind of the tagline for it.
Well, you've been brewing long enough where it sounds like you would be reliable on making good beer. You've been brewing for 20 something years. You should know how to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And,
You're right.
Yeah. And then this brewery down the street here had me teaching some, I have a teaching background. And so they had me teaching some beer and brewing classes, and that was kind of cool. So
Neat.
The word was getting out and people wanted to try my beers and stuff. And so I'm like, all right, yeah, just, make a donation. And, I had hats and shirts and glassware and stuff like that. And then I was just donating all the proceeds to charities. Each month or two, I'd choose a new charity, and all the proceeds would go towards that, monthly charity.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I put a website together, and it's like as far as I could go without actually owning my own brewery. Like I'm just like,
yeah. I mean, I think a few people, will have a brand for their home brewery, and then maybe they'll go on like Grog Tag and get a metal sign or whatever, right? And that's their swag for their brewery. But to sell it enough to where you're making you're making a profit, it's not just that cost, because oftentimes you make a T-shirt one off and it's like expensive to do. So you're not really up charging anybody. But in order for you to make a profit, and then to have enough to be able to donate, even if it's $15, right? You're still doing that. That's still a lot of faith that people have in the brand name, or at least just your cause to purchase merch from a brewery that's not really a brewery. Some dude in his garage taking a break from work, right? Like that's pretty cool, man. That's got to feel good. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's been fun. I've just been kind of rolling with it, and then in like 2019, 2020, kind of right around when COVID kind of got rolling, I was just trying to figure out how I could do a little more. Like I can only do so much with the, with the little half barrel setup over here. So
Yeah.
I hit up a local brewery over here, a dude that I knew who just had like a 2-barrel, one of those kind of garage type breweries. And so he had a little local spot, and we brewed a little charity beer for breast cancer awareness. And Yakima Valley Hops had a 1 in 8 campaign. And I hit him up and I said, hey, will you guys donate the hops for this beer that we're going to do? And we're going to support the, breast cancer awareness with this beer. And they were like, yeah. I had a little connection with them already. I'd been buying some hops from them. So yeah, they sent us the hops for the beer, which was, on a 2-barrel system. It was only, 3 or 4 pounds of hops. And
That's
so,
nothing, man.
yeah, for sure. To them, it wasn't a big deal. And so they were on board, and it was cool. We brewed the beer and we kind of advertised it on our social medias, and, the 2 barrels is gone in, super short amount of time. So then I was like, all right, let's see if we can step this up, So I'm like, what can we do next, And so right around that same time too, some friends from the Oregon Brew Crew up in Portland, they were organizing a Black is Beautiful charity collab. That was in early to mid 2020.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, when Weathered Souls was doing the Black is Beautiful beers. Yeah, and so Michelle Wonder up there in Portland, we kind of connected, and she had organized this whole collaboration between 12 different homebrewers, and she organized it so that there was 6 different charities to donate towards, and we advertised it, and so each of us 12 brewed like 2 cases of beer basically, and we packaged it, and so we ended up making a bunch of 12 packs. And people would donate directly to one of those charities, and then they would send her the information that they donated, and we would reward them with a 12-pack. And so, yeah, we did
That's
2
cool.
rounds of that and raised it was around $11,000 between those two, kind of charity collabs. And so after that, I was like, all right, let's see if we can step this up a little more. And so beginning of 2022, just the beginning of last year, still trying to keep track of all these years.
It's like permanently 2020, man. That's just,
seriously. Yeah. So I decided, all right, let me see if I can brew 6 charity beers this year with commercial breweries. And so the only way I could do it was to have some incentive for them to brew with a home brewer. Like there's no reason for me to reach out like, hey, let's brew a charity beer together. I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, and also like, how many emails they probably get like that a year?
Oh,
it's
man.
like, come on, dude.
Seriously.
Plus all the people coming in, like, will you please try this? You know what? I can tell you the recipe if you want, and we can split the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So the way I tried to approach it was, I'm going to need some incentive for them to brew with me before I even approach any breweries. And so I reached back to Yakima Valley Hops and I said, hey, I got an idea. I want to try to brew 6 commercial beers during this year. Will you guys donate all the hops for those beers? I had no idea like how many barrels we were going to do yet, anything. And, they got back to me in like, 10 minutes. This was through email. And they were like, yep, we're on board. Let's go for it.
Wow.
Let's see what you can do. And
You're like,
okay,
great,
cool.
because I'm brewing at Sierra Nevada on their big system. So
And they're
I'm gonna
all
need
triple
10,000
IPAs.
pounds.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so after that, I reached out to a contact I had at Imperial Yeast in Portland, and with kind of the same thing. I said, I want to brew 6 charity beers this year with commercial breweries. Will Imperial support with the yeast? And same deal. They got back to me right away and said, yep, we're in, let's do it. And so then I got an introduction to a rep at Link Malt. They're a food co-op up in Spokane Valley.
Oh, cool.
And Link Foods is the main corporation. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, they branched off and started doing malting line. And so,
Wow.
And then, about 3 years into their 7 years that they've been going, they had doubled capacity already. And so reached out to Brian up there at Link and told him what the plan was, and he was on board right away. And so now I've got all the ingredients. I'm like ready to go. So I start reaching out to breweries. Some of them I had some contacts with right away. There's a brewery restaurant here in town, a Latin-owned brewery called Chicha. And so Matt is a friend, he's the brewer there, and he was on board right away. So he was the first beer that we did, and we raised like $3,500 for a local charity here in Salem with that first beer. So
Wow. It was
that's super
great.
cool.
Yeah, that's
So
a
I'm
good
like, all right.
response, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, this is way better than I was doing on my own here in the garage. You know?
What was that? What was the beer that you brewed?
We brewed an IPA for
Of
that one. We
course.
kept it pretty simple in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just kind of the style that I like, that he was on board with, just a clean kind of West Coast style IPA. And we ended up packaging about half of that in cans. And so those went out around town, and they were in there to go cooler, you know, for people to grab on the way out. And yeah, it was super cool. Like it just happened right away. And I was like, all right, let's see what we can do here. And so I had another friend that I used to work with here at the local brewery who had transitioned to a job down at Ninkasi. And so we set up we set up a 5-barrel collab there at Ninkasi on their pilot system, which was super cool. And we brewed a beer down there. And and then I reached out kind of blindly to some breweries and got some good response back. And, you know, some of them are like, no, we're not into that, or we don't have time right now, and which was cool. It wasn't a big deal, you know, just trying to make these connections, you know, is tough sometimes when you don't even know any of these people. And so I had a phone conversation with Joel, the owner of Ex Novo, a few years ago when I was thinking about starting my own brewery. And I talked to him about starting I don't know if you know about Ex Novo. They're a nonprofit, not-for-profit model. And so they've expanded.
They sound
expanded out of
familiar.
Portland now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in New Mexico.
I've had their
now.
beer. Yeah.
And okay, cool. Yeah. So they started in Portland, and then the owner, Joel, is originally from New Mexico. So he moved back there. They started another brewery there. I think they're getting ready to start, or they're going to open a third brewery in New Mexico now, in Albuquerque, I think. And so, yeah, they're growing. And so we brewed an ESB there. We brewed 20 barrels, and we canned like 12 barrels of that, and it went off out in all the way up to Seattle. I heard back from people, which was cool. Like people were hitting me up, just strangers, like, hey, this is amazing. There was a little blurb on the back of the can that talked about, you know, what charity we were going to donate towards and who the ingredient donors were. And people were just reaching out like, this is really cool. I love what you're doing. And, you know, it kind of kept me motivated, and it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this on the side. And so that one was fun. We supported a local children's theater group, a nonprofit, with that beer. And so that was cool. And then I went down to California and brewed a beer with my friend Jared down there at Bearded Tang in Stanton.
Bearded Tang. What is what is you know, like, what is it like? The only Tang I know is either the drink or the record company. That's it.
Or Wu-Tang.
I think
Or Wu-Tang. That's true. Fish.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
That's right.
Yeah, he's probably listening right now. So I brew a Pro-Am beer with him every year too for GABF, and we've just been having a good time with brewing. So we stay connected through that. I've known him since high school. We were in a punk band together after high school.
Oh,
and,
no way.
You know, yeah. So
that's tight, man.
We've been pals forever, and so
All
he
right.
always invites me down. We brew a Pro-Am, and so I hit them up for one of the charity beers, and we donated to a children's camp actually that provides camping outings for kids who have diseases or disabilities where they wouldn't normally be able to go on a camping trip because they need a lot of assistance.
Oh, sure, right.
And so there's
right.
a charity called Dream Street, and they provide these camping outings for kids. It was super cool. Yeah,
That's awesome.
And
That's
so-
really awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
How do you
And so,
how do you just not just it sounds
Right.
cold, and that's not what I mean, but you know, go like, how do you not stay with it like a chair like that? Like I would go like, how can I abandon these kids? I need to, you know what I mean? It would be hard to be like, okay, well, we've done that. Now let's move on to this other charity. Because everyone is,
for sure.
you know, my wife and I try to figure out every year around Christmas, like, hey, we got to donate. Let's donate some money. Let's, you know, give back. Let's do some things because we can't. And it's so hard because there's so many charities and there's so many deserving people of your time and attention and money. How do you pick them? I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I feel
Yeah.
bad if I don't support the same thing twice.
Right. When I reach out to these breweries, I kind of throw it out to them like, if we're going to do this, then let's support a charity that, you know, you and your company are passionate about, you know, and
Smart.
every,
You give it to them.
yeah, for
You
sure.
give the karmic weight to them. I get it. That's
For sure,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not
I-
just ingredients. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Since I've been doing a few now, I kind of have sort of a community oriented, you know, community, families, children, you know, like that direction is
Yeah.
kind of where we've been kind of going towards, which kind of just happens on its
Cool.
own.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I kind of leave that up to them, and it's worked out really well so far. So,
So it's
yeah,
it's servicing the community that the brewery is in.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's just important.
definitely.
I mean, that's great. You know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this most recent one that I did is pouring right now out at this little community, Silverton. It's about a 20-minute drive east of Salem,
Mhm.
and it's a small little town. You know, 10 or 15,000 people live out there. But there's a brewery.
Wow.
There's a couple breweries out there actually, and Silver Falls is the state park that's out there, and so Silver Falls Brewing is one of the breweries that I just finished. We actually brewed that one. That was the 6th beer of 2022, and that one's supporting a foundation for a guy that was running a skate and bike shop in town, and he suddenly passed away a year or two ago, and so they started this foundation in his name because he helped build the skate park. He was getting kids on skateboards and getting kids outdoors, and so there's this foundation that's happening in his name at the Fall Line. He had a skate and bike shop called Fall Line, and so that beer is supporting, you know, those kids in their community now and helping them, you know, get a skateboard so that they can go to the skate park because they don't have to stand on the sidelines and watch other kids skate, you know. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
That's neat, man.
Yeah. And so we did the 6 beers last year, and you know, it was coming up towards the end of the year, and I just kind of I keep the communication open. I try to like keep the pressure off the brewery as much as possible. You know, you know, I don't want to add to their stress. I don't put I never put like a requirement on how much they have to donate. Every brewery has come up with like sort of a different way that they want to do the donation.
Okay.
One of the breweries decided we're going to donate the amount that all these ingredients would have cost us, but we didn't have to pay for them. So, you know, it was like over $2,000 in ingredients cost for this beer. Then that's how we're going to do the donation. And some of the breweries do like the $1 a pint thing or a certain amount for a half barrel, you know, if those half barrels get, you know, sold off to different tap houses or whatever. And so just kind of keep it low key and let them kind of decide and not put like a dollar amount at the end, like, oh, you need to donate this amount at the end. And so
everybody's
keep
got
the pressure on.
different figures and they need to keep
For
their
sure.
lights on too. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And coming off the COVID years, it was like,
Yeah.
is this even the right time to be asking breweries to do this? You know,
Right.
and so I didn't want to put any extra pressure on them to be forced into something where they had to donate a certain dollar amount. And
Right.
so,
Their can costs are doubling because of the shortages and everything's
Totally.
going on. It was a crazy time to be.
yeah, man.
You're crazy to do something like this almost. No.
For sure.
But
Exactly.
so you
Yeah,
took on
so-
a worthy challenge and sounds like you had some fun with it too. So
For sure. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. For the first 5 beers we did, I did those first 5 kind of earlier in the year. And so I already had totals that were it was like 9,500 we raised for those 5 charities. And then the Silver Falls beer was technically brewed at the end of 2022, but it wasn't released until just a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
We did a Baltic porter, and so it needed some time to kind of cold condition. And so that one just was released at a little stout fest in Silverton, where the community was totally involved, and that skate shop was there and some other breweries were there, and, you know, it was live music and other community vendors, and it was super cool. And so now that one's still pouring out at their brew pub right now. And
That's neat, man. That's a lot of goodwill to be passing around. And I think that's what, you know, we should be doing.
Yeah,
You know,
like
if you got the means to do it,
right.
you know, do it, man. And maybe you can be an example to someone else who wants to set this up in their area too.
Well, I'm thinking like,
Great way
you
to
know,
give back.
what you started with is like a few connections. Like we all probably, Brian and JP and I, we have a few connections ourselves. Like if we
Mhm.
put
Right.
our minds to something like that, it just shows you what the power of an idea can be and where you can go with
For sure.
something. And,
Yeah.
I like the kind of low pressure approach to it, and,
Me
you know,
too.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm sure
it-
the brewers appreciate that too. They got enough shit going on.
involving,
know,
what
Totally.
they want to support and making it fun for them, giving
For
them a
sure.
little skin in the game too, for like, oh,
Yeah.
that's great. I can support this local skate park that was, or this skate shop. The guy passed
For
away,
sure.
and
Yeah,
I'm sure
totally.
his family and the skaters and the community appreciate that. And
Yeah.
the other children's camping thing. We do a thing every year, Northern California Homebrewers Festival. A lot of our homebrew community goes and supports. And that supports getting I believe foster kids out to a camp for the summer.
Right on.
And we're their biggest, I mean, all the homebrewers come for a weekend, and we pour beer, we're respectful of their space, and we, have a
Cool.
big, everybody just pours their beer and shares with each other. There's music and fun and camping.
on.
And we just, we give back to the community, but we're just there paying our ticket and having fun for the most part.
Mhm.
But at the end, when they announce
Yeah.
how much money went towards the cause, it's like really, heartwarming to
You're
share,
having
like, was a
you're having
part of
fun.
something.
Ryan sweating over a mash tun.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing. I was like, some of the breweries were like, okay, are you going to sell some of this beer on your own, or how do you want to handle that? And I'm like, no, you guys, the brewery still sells the beer as they normally would. They have their distribution channels that they need to, they need to fill. And so I just kind of left it up to them. Like, however they wanted to sell the beer, then just keep doing what you're doing. And and so we're rolling into the next year now, and I've got 2 more planned. One next week in Portland at Zoigel House, which is a lager heavy brewery up in Portland.
I love it.
Just
already.
kind of totally blindly reached out to this head brewer, and just sent an email and told him about the project, about what was going on. And I had these ingredients companies, who were signed on for another year. They're like, yeah, let's roll with it, see what we can do for the next year. So I reached out to him, and he called me like 10 minutes later after I sent this email. I was like,
wow.
Oh, we had like an hour conversation, talked about the whole thing. And so we planned it out now, and we're going to brew a Dortmunder next week. And we both had a connection to this children's hospital that's in Portland called Dornbeckers. And so we're going to brew a Dortmunder for Dornbeckers.
Dude, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So, and we're going to brew like 22 to 24 barrels of this beer, and we're going to can up a bunch of it, and it's going to go out all over the community. And so it's going to spread the word. Pretty cool. I'll send you guys the can art on that one. It just,
send me the can. Fuck the can art, dude. I don't give a shit. I want to drink the beer.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense. I'm sure
I'll
the
send
can
some
art would be
beer.
fucking fantastic, but I want to try it.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, totally.
Right.
I'll send
Yeah,
some down.
absolutely. Yeah, that's cool, man.
For sure.
So, any breweries listening? I know there are a few. Strangely enough, people still listen to the show. How can they get a hold of you if they want to, participate, or maybe just pick your brain on how to set up something similar in their area?
Yeah, that'd be rad. Through my website, I've got oldstandbybrewing.com. They can hit me up through the website. That'd be cool. If a brewery just heard this and they were like, hey, we want to do that, then they would be the first one to actually reach out to me and say, hey, let's brew a charity beer.
Yeah.
So that'd be totally cool if they reached out that way. Yeah,
And,
I have another one coming up in Bend. Cascade Lakes Brewing out in Bend. They've been going for, I think they started up in the 90s. They've been around for a while, but they have
it's
some
one of
new
those
ownership.
older names that I recognize. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
I think in 2018, a family bought it out, and they turned it into a not-for-profit. And so it's like the Central Oregon not-for-profit brewery now.
Not-for-profit brewery. God, so
interesting.
Weird to me. I mean,
For
especially because as much as we've talked on all these shows about breweries struggling to make a profit,
totally,
and to get paid, and to pay their people, and to expand and do all the stuff, like it seems wild to just sort of like I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. Can we keep the lights on? Let's do it.
Yeah. So they're actually
cool.
brewing. They're actually building a new brew pub, and so I think it's going to be their 3rd location. There's a little town north of Bend called Redmond, and that's where their commercial brewery is. But then they have an older brew pub that's in Bend, kind of on the west side of town, and they're building another brew pub on east side of town. It's going to open with this beer too. It will be available.
Oh, that's
We're going to
cool,
brew
man.
a kind of a hoppy Helles out there, and that one's coming up in March. And
Sounds great
so,
too. But we get the
Yeah.
Imperial fucking coffee stout, Brian. Come on. Whatever. That's cool,
Ryan,
man.
Ryan, you said something earlier that I thought I don't want to kind of skip over. And I think it's a good life. I think it's a life lesson, as well as one reason why you've been successful with this is that you just picked up the phone and started calling people you didn't know. And that's like one of the scariest things to do in life, no matter
big time.
in whatever context. But there's times you just have to do it. And it's a skill that you can learn. And I think about that, and I don't want to be all philosophical and shit on Dr. Homebrew, but that's just something that maybe people could listen to that maybe could help their lives in areas up to and including homebrewing, but not necessarily including homebrewing.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. It is scary. It was kind of daunting to just kind of reach out to people that I had no idea what they were going to say, how they were going to react. That's.
Who are you? What do you want to do? And
exactly.
You can only imagine that's what they're going to say. And it gets so hard to just, whether you're emailing or calling or whatever, that can be it's a difficult thing to do. So,
for sure.
But that's partly, that's one of the things you have to do to be successful at some things.
It's I wonder if it's almost like people are ready for that now. There was a time where I think a lot of charity event, there'd be like charity fundraising beer events, like charity come on, like beer, you buy a ticket and then a portion donates and people are going, oh, you have to donate the keg, and then turns out that's illegal. Can't really do that in some places.
Right.
And I wonder if there was a lot of focus on sort of internal, growth, and we'll just keep it to ourselves, and we'll just, we're not going to really reach out and expend the money to donate or do these big non-cost effective things, even though they're great for the community. And especially with COVID, I wonder if now is that's that time when people are ready to sort of branch out a little bit more, maybe sacrifice some of their profits for the community that kept them afloat, through the lockdowns and
totally.
That kind of stuff. I wonder if it's just the perfect timing.
Yeah, it's worked out well. I'm still kind of surprised that it's still kind of just rolling now, and it's kind of gaining momentum, because
good. It should. Hopefully it does, man. Hopefully this is just you're known as like the charity beer guy.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Sounds very very synergistic, and it's like there's the ingredients people. It doesn't sound like they're expecting a whole lot. Maybe they get a little logo somewhere on the cans, or not even that, or just get mentioned in an article or something, but. It's just goodwill and helping people out, and to them, for some of these batches, it's a small amount, but sounds like it's getting bigger. 20 something barrel batches. That's a substantial donation for some of those ingredients. So
it's a lot. Yeah,
really is.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, Ryan, we're going to let you go, man.
Right.
We're going to split, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time and for sending the beer, and definitely welcome back anytime. If you guys are interested in learning more about Ryan and his beers, go to oldstandbybrewing.com, and you can buy some merch and check out the collabs and the charities he's worked with, and learn a little bit more about what's up and coming for that.
Cool, right on. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate
thanks
it.
for being on.
I finished the coffee stout.
Oh God, we got another show to do, Brian. What the hell's wrong with you?
There might be some caffeine in there that'll keep you rolling.
That's true. Yeah, you're gonna crossfade on that. Hang on, we're gonna take a quick break, everybody. We'll be right back with Dr. Homebrew. Stay tuned. All right, cool. Yeah, Ryan, thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. That was good. That was good beer. I got the rest in the fridge, and getting to not 70 degrees, so I can drink it.
Try it a little cooler.
Glad you guys liked it. Yeah, I'll send more beer.
Really well done.
Whenever you want, man.
Collabs are ready, I'll send some down for you. And it'd be cool to check in and touch base with you guys. I
was gonna say, if you want to, obviously we're always willing to get beer, but if you want to come on and send us some beer about your latest collab, and we can talk about it and maybe raise some awareness, in that regard. I don't know how much it would do for like the community, but I think for the premise overall, I think it's cool goodwill, and I think it's a cool story. So anytime you want, we are always accepting beers. Reach out to Brian Cooper here, and we'll
usually get back to people.
Hey,
I'll
right.
get back to you. No, yeah, no problem. I actually, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that'd
guys
be
got
neat.
back to me super quick, so that was cool.
Yeah,
That was another thing. I sent a kind of a wild email out to you guys too, just to see, hey,
it's a
do
cool
you wanna-
idea.
yeah,
It's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
the kind
you
of
know,
stuff we're looking for. Yeah, it's
yeah,
a nice,
we're also
good
desperate,
story.
so
Right on.
you know. All right, man.
Yeah, cool.
We'll
Right
see
on.
you,
It's good
dude.
talking to you guys.
Yeah, you
Cool.
too,
Nice
man.
talking to you.
All right.
All
Yeah.
right,
Cheers.
later.
Late.
All right, we're just gonna
Um,
come back and wrap
come
up.
back and wrap
Yeah.
up. Okay.
All right, here we go. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging on. We are about to get out of here. Thank you very much to Ryan. I was thinking of a Council of Ryan joke, but I don't know. I didn't think anybody would care, so I thought
Yeah.
I'd explain the explanation of it instead. You know what I mean? I like that coffee stout. It was good.
I'm getting a little caffeine buzz. Yeah.
Are you? You're like, yeah, man, I gotta
Well,
clean or
no,
something.
I felt it
man.
last night when I judged it too. I was starting to get a little tired, and then I hit that one. It's like I started perking back up a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you
I
go,
don't
man.
usually do coffee at night.
You know,
Oh,
having
can't do it.
more coffee stout would be a great way to go to sleep because there's more alcohol.
That's right. Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You
Just
know,
keep drinking that, you'll be fine.
I was listening to this radio guy, Phil Hendry, my hero, and he was saying like he read something where sometimes drinking caffeine will help him get more tired because he's so tired, he's like overtired, and it like elevates your brain waves back up to being tired again. And I was like, I don't know about that. I think he's fucking with me, but it seems good to me. I don't know, man. My coffee roaster blew. So I had to buy a fucking brand new coffee roaster. Shout out to the Fresh Roast SR800 from More Beer. Fucking great, dude. Like the coffee flavors have never been better. And so I maybe that's why I'm like keyed in on his coffee flavors. They were dynamic, and you don't really get that from coffee beers too much. And I was sort of almost disappointed to hear that it's just like ground in the keg, because I would always tell people that it doesn't work. But I think, what that's teaching me is it's very much bean dependent and roast dependent.
And in
No.
a very dry beer, this would taste so much different, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, this is a very sweet beer
Yeah.
and a very alcoholic beer. So, and it works. And the level was a little high. It's amazing that it was high on top of everything else that was there. 50 pounds of,
know.
and fermentables.
Yeah, and I think in the future, I want people to realize that like it is bean dependent. It's not just like, well, I took 2-row and I mashed at 148 and then 156, and then here's the difference. You can't really do that with coffee. Coffee's not just coffee. It's very, very different. The names are different for a reason. You know, even like in regions of Colombia, they're different. You know, farms have a different terroir. It's just like wine, like grapes, you know, and you got to hit on the right coffee for you, and then figure out what beer style to put it in, and then figure out how to do it. So it was interesting. It was one of the first times that I've sort of like been caught off guard with that, because I'm so clever and smart. All right, we're gonna get out of here, everybody. Yeah. If
But-
you're listening live, stay tuned. We're about to hit another show with my beer. An ESB, and then we have a mild to drink. But if you want to get on the show, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. I know there's a guy in the chat room, Rob, who is berating you constantly through the entire show,
Okay.
Cooper, that you have not gotten back to him. So no more of this bullshit. Like no one's sending us emails because Rob is patiently waiting. I think he's camped out at his post office, just waiting for an address.
I'm on it.
Yeah, you are. Attaboy. All right, everybody. We're going to get out of here. Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. Thank you very much to 5-Star Chemicals. Go to 5starchemicals.com right now. Learn about the best ways to clean and sanitize your home brewing equipment and your life, basically. All right, everyone. We'll see you.